out of here, Mickey Massage. Get out of here with your Lumpinati music. Taylor Switch is the best singer, is the best rapper, is also the best sound person. So, Team Tater Swish.
Hi everyone, Tater Sweats here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new R.P. Boo record. Don't want to mess this up. Fingers, Bank Pads, and Shoeprints. Legendary producer R.P. Boo, often cited as the forefather of JUKE, and subsequently FOOTWORK. These really jittery, disorienting styles of electronic music based out of Chicago, which several years ago everybody seemed to simultaneously get hip to as the music media was covering more and more of the vets and the godfathers of this genre. People like R.P. Boo, who had a record around this time titled Legacy, and Traxman, DJ Nate, the late DJ Rashad, and the rest of the Tech Life crew. And around this time, there were actually some decent records coming from people who were outside of Chicago and dabbling in this style of music. Guys like Jamie Vexed under the name Cuedo. We also had Machine Drum, who dropped a few kind of killer records in this style of music. And there were a lot of producers from the UK that were getting hip to JUKE and FOOTWORK as well. A lot of these artists fusing JUKE and FOOTWORK with other styles of music and basically just experimenting with it. But Boo over here, considering his last record and just his relation to JUKE and FOOTWORK and sort of his place in the genre, doesn't really show much in the way of a wish to elevate it with a sweeter, more accessible, more mainstream or artsy sound. On Fingers and Bank Pads, Boo sticks to the FOOTWORK blueprint, the quickly cycling vocal and musical samples, which are pulled straight from the Ghetto House playbook, the very sharp, thin, tinny drum pads, and these samples and these drums just create this tangled, complex, dizzying web of electronic music. It is just non-stop sound. Coming from so few sounds, it's really simple and skeletal and minimal in one breath, but in the other, it's just so difficult to decipher sometimes. And Boo's approach, unlike some other producers, is not very melodic either. And when melodies are worked into Boo's music, they are often just repeated and cycled and cycled and cycled to the point where in my head I just often become numb to them by the halfway point of the song. And sometimes these melodic ideas don't really sync up completely with the very busy, intense percussion. I mean, not that they're not working at the same tempo, but we're talking about maybe just completely different grooves riding the same tempo, which sometimes I think is something that Boo really emphasizes for a really weird effect, just like purposefully throwing together melodic and percussive ideas that might not totally fit in a traditionally logical, musical, theoretical way. Sort of like on the song Sleepy, where we're getting this muffled bass, these sort of slow cycling tones, some operatic vocals, which are all fit against these really crisp clap sounds. It's kind of weird and experimental in a way. And another track on this record that I think gets even weirder is the song I'm Laughing, which has one of the most incessant samples. And the opening track on here has a pretty confusing approach to the vocal samples. I feel like I'm almost listening to two conversations happening at once. Or then there's the song Beware, where I'm actually feel like I'm listening to two songs at once with the percussion and the vocal samples, which are very melodic, not really having a lot of chemistry together. I wouldn't really say there's that much chemistry between the percussion and the samples on the song Your Choice or the song Heat From Us. And there are also moments on this LP where it doesn't really feel like aesthetically the percussion is really fitting all that much with the samples, the melodic samples that are worked into these tracks either. The percussion is often, again, very thin, very tinny, very crispy, and mixed very high, just sounding very loud, while the samples are often just completely smothered by this very just searing, prickly percussion. Much of the time, Boo's sounds clash more than they converge, which again I think is intentional and isn't 100% bad 100% of the time, because I think it does give this record a very rudimentary and raw sound. Sometimes these strange, dizzying combinations of sounds actually end up sounding pretty harmonious, like on the song FREEZABURN, where the cacophonous rhythms on this track actually fit very well against the distant, somber female vocals that cycle throughout much of this track. The vocals on this track are worked into the percussive mayhem very well, and I think on songs like this, Boo successfully shows that he has like a bit of a softer side, but there are plenty of tracks here that do go super hard, super aggressive, very loud, very direct, like the song Finish Line DJs, motherfuck your favorite DJ, motherfuck your favorite DJ, motherfuck your favorite DJ, motherfuck your favorite DJ. That is pretty much the vocal sample that plays throughout this track for about 4 minutes, which gets real old, real fast. But I do like the tense, visceral beat behind this vocal sample, and in a way, this song finds a middle ground between being hypnotic and being hyped. And then there are other tracks in the track listing that are also very direct and hard-hitting, but I think the beats and the grooves are a little bit more traditional, easier to digest, and some of the vocal samples are actually pretty catchy. The song Suicide, Daddy's Home, also the song Let's Dance Again, which actually does have a pretty straightforward dance beat. But because RP Boo is producing it, we're getting these like twittering polyrhythms flying all over the instrumental. Overall, this record was not a bad listen. I thought it was really good, and in a way, it's kind of what I've been looking for in a Footwork record for a long time. I mean, I'm not totally head over heels for it because there are some duds in the track listing here, but this record sticks very passionately to the blueprint of Footwork, but does experiment with it and shows its versatility very nicely. And then it doesn't really overstay its welcome like some other larger Footwork releases have in the past, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the gist of this record for me. I mean, hopefully RP Boo keeps making music and continues to keep Footwork interesting. I think this record was a good statement. I think his last record was a good statement, and hopefully he sort of pushes on and continues to try new things on his next release. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this thing. Transition, have you given this record a listen? If you have, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, RP Boo, Boo, forever.